So Enrique Mogolla, he has been passionate about about writing code since high school. His experience as software engineer ranges from backend and web applications to open source, and he is a big programming and believes that collaborative environments are the key to improve software design. Enrique was born and raised in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, which is beautiful. If you haven't been there, I recommend you go. And he received his master's degree from the University of Valencia in Spain. He enjoys traveling and reading. So please, let's give him a warm applause.
Hola. Hello. Happy Tuesday. How are you? How's it going? My name is Enrique. I work for Salesforce as a software engineer. I work in the Einstein team for Service Cloud. So today, everything that I'm going to tell you is relative. I was, like my bio said, I was born and raised in San Miguel de Allende, in the heart of Mexico. And for those who don't know, San Miguel was named the most beautiful city of 2016 by the Travel magazine. So, I have an idea. Think about it. Magma 2018. San Miguel is a beautiful city, has amazing things to offer. But when I was growing up, there was one thing that I didn't have. It was a computer science program. So I had to go out of the city to study college. And the college that I went on my first year at the university, they didn't have a lot of computers with internet access. It was a few years ago. Okay, more than a few years ago, 15 years ago. But still, there were not enough computers for all the students, but there was other option to connect into the internet. There were mainframes. But in order to get into the internet with the mainframe, you have to access it via a terminal that was only text-based. And for a few tasks, like browsing the internet, it was kind of difficult, no images. But for a few other things, like just chat, it was okay. So I started joining this BBS, or Bulletin Billboard. And one of the things that I found out was there was servers that had chat rooms, and you could just join the chat room and start talking with people. And I realized that there was a chat room specific for my university. So I said, great, now I can chat with the same people that are in the room through the internet. And that was for me amazing because I'm an introvert, I don't get to know a lot of people really easy. But that helped me. And as soon as I started talking with others, I realized that they had different nicknames like Morpheus, Neo, Zero Cool, El Pato. So getting to know those people was interesting. But there was this person, Steve, that peer, that I couldn't understand. But since he was the one who was usually helping others, he was the one that was trying to enforce the rules, I thought, oh, yeah, maybe he's Sergeant Pepper, right? Like from the Beatles. And I thought, like, yeah, there's probably another Beatle fan in the same room. And after a while, I started being able to identify everyone in the room. I was able to tell who was Morpheus or who was El Pato. But I couldn't figure out who Sergeant Pepper was. And finally one day I asked, who is Sergeant Pepper? And told me, who? Yeah, Sergeant Pepper, the Steve that appeared. And he told me, no, student Peter doesn't mean that. It means Saint Peter. And it's because he's the gatekeeper. So, and it doesn't really exist. It's just a set of scripts that run on the mainframe. And I was like, oh, I just met my first blog. So, what is a bot? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, it's a computer program that works automatically. According to Wikipedia, a bot is a software agent that is responsible for actions that it does on behalf of someone else. But modern bots have more autonomy depending on how smart or how intelligent they are. And if we are going to talk about intelligence in machines, we have to ask this question: can machine think? And this is a question that Alan Turing asked a few decades ago. He wrote an essay trying to figure out if it was going to be possible for a machine to be intelligent. And the way he proposed we were going to find out was with a game. It's called the imitation game. Or in computer science, we know it as the Turing test. This Turing test, basically what it does is there's one person, the evaluator, and there are two other players, a computer and another human. And the idea is that the computer wants to trick the evaluator into thinking that it is human. If the computer succeeds, we would know that the computer is somehow capable of doing some human level intelligence. But bots not only have those skills, besides autonomy, besides that intelligence, they also need to persist. It's not possible for them to just live in the memory of a computer. They have to actually live physically there, not in only the dynamic memory. And most of the current bots also live in the cloud. There's also reactivity. In order for a bot to interact, it needs to have a trigger. Sometimes the trigger is a sensor, sometimes the trigger is a set of words. And the set of words, or the way a bot interacts with people, is called the social ability. And the social ability sometimes comes in form of the bot's understanding the natural language that we use, or processing our language and use it, translating that into a machine language and do something. What is natural language processing? It's basically what I just said. It's machines trying to understand language or understand humans, either in written form or in voice mode. And it is a field on artificial intelligence that is completely dedicated to that. And the one thing that I want to mention here is that it's not easy, because even if you have the whole grammar rules for a language, it's not enough, because there's also slangs, there are also new words that we're inventing, or things that we misspell on purpose, but we don't know that we're misspelling. So for a computer, sometimes it's hard to understand what we're saying. Anyway, how do computers do it? They basically do it in two steps. First, they do a syntax analysis, which means that they break the language into specific tokens. And then they use these tokens to classify them, sort them, and with that, we can go to the next stage, which is the semantic meaning. The semantic means that you are taking all those tokens and putting them back together again in order to try to find a meaningful sense of what they're saying. And if you can see this example, they're breaking a sentence into words that are tokens. Then the words are assigned into subject, verb, adjectives, and so on. And then it's composed at the top to find out what is the meaning. And to accomplish this, natural processing language has two approaches. The first approach is brute force, which is similarly what they did to Gary Kasparov on the match with IBM Big Blue. It's analyzing all possibilities, and when you find a solution, use that. And that was not very useful in the past because the computer power that we had for analyzing language was not enough. So they came out with another approach, which is the symbolic approach that I just described in the semantic version. So the symbolic approach is just tools, as I said, of grammar and linguistic tools that can help you understand a language. Now, modern natural language processing engines are using a combined approach. They use statistics to move on into the next level, and most of the more modern natural language engines use other artificial techniques like deep learning. So now that we have a little bit of context of how bots got started, let's look into the first one. So the first one was ELIZA in 1966, and it was developed by the MIT lab. And back then, they couldn't process all the text. So what they were doing, they were just doing pattern matching, and according to the pattern that you were finding, they were responding. This part was really interesting because people started to actually having conversations for the first time with a computer. Now let's move on a little bit to the 90s. How many of you have heard about IRC? Okay. For you millennials who don't know about IRC, it was something invented before Facebook Messenger or Slack or Skype. And it was a system to communicate, a chat, and we had clients to connect to this one. So one of the more popular clients was the Mir. And for me, getting into IRC was a little bit dark because I met very rude people there. I met people who didn't agree with me sometimes, and in response, they sent me the ping of death. Or they nuked me, which is basically a denial of attack service only to me. And one of my friends at high school, he was very smart. He had a lot of troubles with someone. So he decided to create his own client from IRC. And what he did, he put together this set of tools that protect him from the basic pain of death. And then he shared his client with us. And the best part was that we didn't know this until very late, but the best part was that he could type a secret command, and then everyone who was using his client will start an IRC bot. And then the IRC bot will start sending pings of death or anything else to the person who he wanted to get out of the IRC. So that was fun times, but still a dark period. So, who here remembers Clippy? Well, Clippy was a software agent or a bot that was designed to try to be helpful. I like it for the first 2 minutes. After that, it was just really annoying. And it was annoying because it interrupted you. Because the way it was designed, it was just to have a good first experience, and then all the solutions that it proposed were based on a specific settings that were not useful in general. The artificial intelligence that it used, it wasn't ready. We needed something else. But around the same time, the 90s, it appeared this tool, Verticizer. Have you heard about David Bowie? Do you know who David Bowie is? Yes. Right. So he used verbalizer to write some songs. For example, Hello Space Boy. And the way it worked was that he generated random phrases with these tool verbalizers, and then he took either a part of this phrase or just a few words, and then put them in his songs. And what is interesting to me is that his songs don't have like a deep meaning, or they are not using a rhetorical device to express something else. But this still is art. And what David Bowie said is that it's a technological dream. It will give me access to ideas that otherwise I wouldn't have had. Alright, that's enough for bots from the past. So now, these days we all have access to bots right from our pockets. For example, you could ask Siri, can you tell me about Eliza? And she will tell you that Eliza was her first teacher. So, who here uses Slack? I'm a big fan of Slack, and I like a lot of the bots. There are bots that can help you monitor your traffic in your website. There are bots that can help you organize your day. And of course, there are bots that help you get images, like Giphy or GIF. Actually, pretty much all my images in my presentation come from here. So if you have any complaints, blame the bots. Have you heard about this bot from the UK, Do Not Pay? It was originally first designed to avoid paying parking tickets. And it was designed this way because someone found out that the tickets that they wanted, the traffic tickets that they were getting, were unfair. So they designed a system that was going around to repel those tickets. And then they enhanced that bot to be more like a lawyer. So now he can start to do things like if your flight is delayed, you can ask for a refund or some other type of compensation. And this all happens automatically. You just have to sign up for the service. So the bot is doing things that otherwise you would have had to hire a lawyer. Oh man. Who remembers Tide? Have you seen this? Have you seen Tide, the Twitter bot from Microsoft? Well, for those who haven't, Tide was a Twitter bot from Microsoft. And the part that was interesting was that it was learning from humans and from the human interactions that she had. The problem was that sometimes people go into a different direction. So she started tweeting offensive messages. And things went bad. Microsoft shoot her down immediately after they realized it was from that direction. Anyway, my favorite modern bot is Hubot. Hubot was originally designed at GitHub, and for them it did things like change the music in the office or deploy one of the servers. But now Hubot is a complete ecosystem of a bot that can interact with multiple services, multiple chat services. You can connect to Slack, HipChat, Skype, and many others. And the main advantage of Hubot, I think, is that it's open source and it's just JavaScript. Okay, so now that we know how bots got here, have you thought about what's going to happen with bots in the future? Have you thought about how they're going to be? I think that bots in the future are going to be like co-creative partners. Similar to what happened with David Bowie, that they helped him write and compose a song. But in this case, they're going to be more active because right now, the bots can execute on simple tasks. But as artificial intelligence gets better, They will be able to help you, for example, if you're writing an essay, they could find words that you're using multiple times. And as you use it multiple times, that gets substituted by other words, other synonyms, and that can just happen automatically, or it can happen in an interactive way. So these co-creative bots are going to be important for the future because they're going to be creating, for example, movie scripts. I've seen some attempts of creating a script directly from a bot. This is still experimental, but it's happening. Bots are getting creative. Is there a way that we could get advantage of this? And my idea is that if you have a hobby and your hobby has a part that is difficult or that requires more of your attention but can be automated, that's an excellent opportunity to have a bot built through collaborative partner. Sorry, to create partner. And I already gave out the next step. So the next one is collaborative agents. Bots are going to be working together. Until now, many of the bots are individual, or they only work on a specific task. But in the future, they're going to work together, and they're going to create a network of bots. And what really blows my mind to think about is what will happen when bots create other bots to collaborate with them. That is just something that I cannot predict that far in the future. The other thing that I want you to think about it is that bots are going to be immortal, or at least they're going to live longer than many of us. And we have to keep that in mind because they are breaking a limit that we have, that is the time. We have a constraint, and for them, that constraint is going to be softened a little bit. So bots are going to be learning, and we have to plan, and we have to decide what we want the bots to learn. And the idea is that we have a positive approach, a positive end game. Otherwise, it's going to be Terminator all over again. Okay? So, what is the bot's mission? I feel that bots are trapped in a digital world, are trapped in our laptops, in the cloud, and they use our phones to interact. They check the weather, they turn the light on and off. Bots are digital entities created by developers to make humans more productive, more creative, and why not? To make them live longer and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was a really nice way to talk. I use Slack as well. I'm obsessed about Slack. Okay, so we do have a couple of time for questions. I don't know if we have any questions for him. Yes. Aquí. Yeah.
If you could have it right now, how would it be your perfect bot?
If I could have it, what would it be my perfect bot?
Yeah.
I thought about it a little bit, and I think that I want a bot that avoids. I want a bot that helps me avoid making decisions. There are many decisions that you have to take on your life that are not important. Like for example, what to wear today if it's raining. So a bot can tell you, oh, it's raining, you should wear this clothes. Or you're going to the beach in the summer, you should only eat vegetables. So ideally I could have a bot that tells me more things about what I want to know and what I should do. That would be my perfect bot.
You talked about that robots don't have the limit that we do in terms of age or abdominal. What's your take on the possibility that perhaps one day our minds will be able to be digitized and turned into a robot, or just be digitized and put into a computer of some sort, where we sort of become half bot, half human, even in our bodies or in a digital sphere?
So I read Asimov, so I think that we're in the process of getting there. However, I feel that we are still centuries away from that, and especially because we don't understand how the human brain works. And even if we can put everything what is in our memory, everything what is in our synapses, we still won't be able to replicate our emotions just by our brain, because there are other things in our body that help or change that emotion. So I think it's going to be possible in the future, and I would love to live long enough to experiment that, but still, I still think we're centuries away from that.
Anyone else?
Questions? No?
Okay, well, let's give him another applause. Thank you very much.
Y la foto para